So thank you guys for having me. Thank you, John, for the lovely introduction. Is the presentation good to go and ready to go? Do I just do that? There we go. Awesome. That looks familiar. So thank you guys for having me today. I got to say, just from what I heard, I stepped in here at the last little bit of the panel that was up here, and what I heard was blockchain, right? Because nobody in business today can start any conversation without blockchain somehow fitting in. Other words like transformation, agile, programmatic, all these words that we use in business, yet it's a crime against humanity for what I'm about to tell you, that most of you probably don't know what data sits behind your website and what you can use to your advantage. There's this new phrase out there. Anybody heard it? The data is the new oil. Have you heard it? You heard that, right? Okay, so data is the new oil, and that's fantastic, but do we just take oil out of the ground and like put it into our gas tanks? No, right? We have to do stuff with it. So if data is the new oil, we get to gasoline by refining it. And everybody in this room and your teams are little refineries, okay? Because analytics is the actual active step in taking data and making sense of it. So with the subject of what sits behind your website and all that wonderful data that you can bring to life through analytics and through the simple tool of Google Analytics, what I hope to do is sort of uncover that subject matter for you today. Because this is what we're up against, right? There is no shortage of data in the world. There's no shortage of data in your brokerages, your companies that you can use to assess, but we kind of get into this world of analysis paralysis because there's just too much data, we don't know where to start, we kind of give up and we figure we'll go with gut feeling. So what I want to convince you of today, and the key message to kind of take away from this talk, is that it's a bit complex, but it's something you can definitely manage and begin to understand and leverage for your business. And what I will walk you through today is the topic of digital analytics, web analytics, and what Google Analytics has sort of at its back. First, why do we do this stuff? Why is it important? We'll walk through that. Then we'll go through, what do you do with this stuff? How do you approach it? What's there for you to use? And then we'll walk through a practical exercise and technique for how you can take that data, manipulate it, and learn more about what's going on, and then we'll wrap up with some questions. But please, if there's anything confusing along the way, anything you need better clarification on, I talk fast, and I teach this stuff, so please do stop me and I'll explain it along the way. Here's what's going on in the world. This is an internet minute, right? How many people have kids? Okay, have you seen anything other than the top of their heads recently? Because this is what's happening. This is sort of the, why people are getting, unfortunately, hit going across the street, because everybody's on their phone. We're all absorbed in our own little worlds. And I have a teenager. I have two teenagers at home, and that's hence the gray hair. But with these devices, it's kind of, remember, I don't know if this is an old enough crowd, but remember in like the 70s, the Brady Bunch, they had the intercom between the rooms? We now text each other, or actually call each other from different floors of the house. And thank God that these little devices remember my kids' contact numbers, because I can't remember what their numbers are, right? When was the last time you actually forced yourself to memorize a phone number? So things are changing, right? We have all this data now available. The customer journey, so there was just an exercise in the other room around journey mapping. And what we have to understand is this is not the world of, I grew up here in Ontario, in Toronto. I remember when I was a kid, you got 3 television stations and that was it. You got ABC, NBC, CBS, and whatever other crappy Canadian channel you could. If you picked up the feed from like CFTO, or not CFTO, sorry, whatever it was, CHCH in Hamilton, that was awesome because it gave you like, a quarter more content than you were getting. But the world today is on demand. We have all these channels, these interaction points. We no longer see a TV commercial, let it wash over us, think about it, take into consideration the, do we have desire and consideration for this product, and then we go to buy it? We have an onslaught now, right? We see a billboard, we check our text messages, we're looking at a website, a mobile ad, social media bombarding us with different messages. Sometimes we don't even know who is actually selling to us because it's this new thing of influencer marketing, right? So all these channels have exploded, and all of them are producing data. either data that we can use in terms of our Google Analytics data, or data that we're using in terms of our customers, or data that we're using in terms of understanding our platforms a little bit better that we have out there. But the problem really comes out of, are you drowning in this data, right? Because that can happen. I'm dealing with a couple of larger, medium-sized to larger companies that they have all this data, they just don't know what the hell to do with it. And a lot of times, they don't even actually know where it sits or how to access it. And for you guys, it's, is it a black box? Is it kind of sitting there inaccessible? And when you do open up and crack open that black box, what's in it? What's the value, right? We all want to know what the value in our data is. The value in our data sort of comes around from this. How many have heard the term Hippo before in relation to business? Highest important paid person's opinion. That's what the Hippo is, right? We all have Hippos in our business lives. They're the person who sits down and says, I think we should do this, right? No data to back it up. Nothing other than sort of gut feeling around this is right. And intuition is super important, right? It's driven business for a long time. But right now we have a balancing act that we need to achieve. And that is the balance between the Hippo and the data. Netscape, right? The first kind of browser that came out a long time ago, or internet service, Jim Barksdale, who was the head, said, if we have data, let's look at the data. But if all we got are opinions, then mine counts the most, because I'm the big guy here, right? So we have to avoid that, and we're sort of into this era now of, still gut instinct, but where that gut instinct is validated, or perhaps invalidated based on data, is where we need to be. So the questions we can answer with analytics to our websites, and how many people in the room before we go on are fluent with Google Analytics in some way, shape, or form? Like you've opened it up and you know what's there. Okay. So how many of you would consider yourselves to be someone who could stand up here and tell the rest of the group about it? Okay, that's my indication that I should be here. So thank you. I just like to set that context because I teach this stuff. And I don't just teach this stuff to eager kind of, students who want to know it because that's where their career is going to be. I come in and I teach it to CEOs and, boards and other folks to say, this is what's there that you can leverage and pull out. So who visits my site? Where are they coming from? Should I be concerned if I'm getting the right traffic? Where is that traffic coming from in terms of my advertising? Or is it natural? They're just showing up at the site. Have they bookmarked it? I'm spending money on advertising, and there's this old phrase that in my industry, in marketing and communications and digital, is well known. And it was I think it was in the 1800s, John Wanamaker, who is the CEO or the creator, founder of Wanamaker's department stores in the US, I think long since gone, said famously, I know half of my money that I'm spending on advertising is wasted, I just don't know which half, okay? So we call that attribution, right? Where are the attribution for my dollars going, and am I reaching my goals from those dollars that I'm spending? And the answer is, fast forward to 100, 150 years later, we still don't have exact perfect attribution, right? Perfect attribution is, I have something to sell, and I'm going to sell it to you. You've never heard about it before, you heard about it today, and you purchased it from me. That's perfect attribution. I made the sale, you had no awareness of it before. But now in this world of social media, email, websites, billboards, TV commercials, radio commercials, where's that attribution coming from, right? And what I counsel brands on is don't worry about exactly where it came from, but know that you have to be kind of covering all your bases. It is a little bit of a shotgun approach, but we know that we can aim that shotgun a little bit better. So the answer is, I don't know which 50% today still is getting it, but I think we've probably narrowed that down to like about 25% that we may have a question mark against where that effectiveness is. But it gets crazy, right? The technology and the marketing channels that we have and the data points, it can get very confusing and complex. So just remember that analytics is always looking at what you're doing and asking questions around it. The results are just a number on a page. It's how you actually go about it and seize the opportunity there that the numbers may be telling you. So we want to build customer intelligence. We want to understand the types of customers to attract. We want to understand their desired products and service sets. And we also want to level if there's additional support required that we can kind of glean from our site. Peter Drucker, anybody a Peter Drucker fan? Management consultant, sort of wrote the book on management, said what gets measured gets managed. And you would not believe how many people are putting these days, big and small companies, efforts into their digital presence without actually measuring anything against it, right? And that's just a fool's game. So what I wanted to do was walk you guys through, regardless of, I want you to think about your website, but I also want you to think about the strategy you have for your website and the tactics that you use against it, and then how you measure those tactics. So I'm going to walk you through what is a sort of digital measurement plan really quickly, and how to think about it, and then what we'll get into after is what you can actually find that you can leverage within Google Analytics. So Google kind of talks to us and tells us there's really only a finite set of internet strategies out there, right? So know what you're doing to then measure the outcome. If you're in e-commerce, right, you're selling things online, well, then you should be measuring the sales of your products or services. That's a pretty simple one. But what if you're into lead generation, right? A lot of people who are trying to generate leads, correct? Hands, lead generation, that's an important part of your business. So you need to measure how many times people are on your site and giving you data that you can then follow up with. Maybe you're doing publishing, right? You're doing content publishing for your brand or your brokerage. And you want to make sure that people are on your website and viewing that content. So are they coming back? Are they visiting you? Are they engaging with your content? If you think about like, a Time magazine website that's really an official publisher, or Globe and Mail, why they want engagement and frequency is because they sell advertising on that site. So they want people coming back so that more advertisers will come to them and advertise on their site. So that's their reason for being. Products or information and branding, those are other goals that we have or strategies, and we look to make sure that people are getting value from the site and also understanding who we are, and we're creating awareness and hopefully engagement down the road. So these are basic things. It's not an overly complex list, and it should be an understanding, a pretty linear approach to it. But these strategies can coexist. You don't have to just be in one. You can be in e-commerce and lead generation and content publishing all at the same time. But the trick is to understand how you're measuring this stuff. So to set up a measurement plan, it's about 5 steps here. And the first one is to understand the business you're in. What's your objective? You're helping consumers get the insurance that they want at the best price and service quality, right? So what is your strategy? You're selling products. At the end of the day, you're selling a policy, or you're helping your clients out. So the tactic that you have for your web activities is to drive people to that site, service them, and have them go from a prospect out there in the world to a lead that you can capture. So what are our KPIs, or our key performance indicators that we're actually going to achieve this, right? A lot of people miss this step. They just say, okay, set it up, we've got the form, that's great, we're good to go. But they forget the step of saying, how do we know an indicator of where we're going? So, very simple. A key performance indicator here is the number of leads that we've generated, right? Perhaps one of the key performance indicators particular to your business is we've got a lot of marketing programs going out there. We know that the email blast that we sent out, or the pay-per-click advertising campaign that we've got going on, or excuse me, or banner advertising campaign that we've got going on is going to produce results. But what's the ratio of leads that we're getting from visits to the site based on that? So just a way of thinking through, what do you really want to achieve? What are the segments that we have coming to the website that will help us to support this? What are the source of the leads? Are they coming organically? Are we paying for them? Are they referrals? Are these current customers? Are they returning? Have they been to the site once and closed the deal and give us information, or do they come back repeatedly? And what does our referral network look like, right? And how can we glean into that? And then what targets have we set? Right? If you're going into a marketing campaign or into something, you want to set your targets to know what the health is. So is it 10% of your traffic you want to convert? Is it 50 leads a month you want to gain through these channels? How much conversion do you want based on your prospecting? Unless you declare war on your numbers and metrics, you'll never know what you can achieve. And once you have that, and you can start to sort of standardize, okay, this month we should have had 50 leads, you can start to look at what that wildly important goal is for your website to produce for you. Because there's going to be data coming out of everywhere. But unless you understand what your KPIs and your targets are that you've set to reach, you're still going to be in the same position a month out, a year out, 10 years out. Okay, so please, let's take the honor, the oath of I will start some sort of digital measurement plan for my efforts after today. So that's how you kind of set this stuff up, but we really haven't started to talk about Google Analytics and what it does. So first of all, Web Analytics is the measurement, collection, and analysis. Web Analytics is an active state. A report is just a report. How we analyze that report, the action that we take with it, how we look into the numbers and determine what our actionable insights are, is the work that you guys got to do as the little refineries. Okay, so it's just information, it's metrics, it's very structured data, and we're going to show you a little bit about what the reports look like and what you can glean from them in a second. But why Google Analytics? Well, number one, it's a free tool, unless you're like the size of Walmart or a Chubb Insurance. Those are the paid plays, but it's the number one installed analytics base across all websites. It's got 82% market share of those who use it. So I want to walk you through a couple of key terms, because I may mention it down the line. And if you're familiar with this, great. But I wanted to highlight some of the just key kind of vernacular you're going to come up against in Google Analytics. Number one is the source and the medium. So this is the origin of where your traffic is coming from. It came from a source somewhere on the internet, or a medium, meaning more specific to the platform it might have been. So when we say source, it may have been Facebook, or sorry, social media. That may have been a source. The medium may have been Facebook. The source, mixing that up, step back. Between source and medium, you'd be able to see that social was driving traffic to your site, but when you drill into social, you want to figure out what social platforms. Was it Pinterest? Was it Facebook? Was it LinkedIn? And that will tell you the source of where it's coming from. Was it email? Was it another website? Was it a referral? So these are ways that we can start to look at where our traffic is coming from and start to measure it. A bounce rate. How many people here know what a bounce rate is? Okay, so you can read that, or you can understand this. I came, I puked, I left. Okay, that's your bounce rate. People did not want to interact with your website. What does Google do best? Google sets you up for, when you do a search, to go to the place Google thinks you need to go to get that information. If you are doing a Google search term for something and you go to a website and that website doesn't have that information, doesn't look like the right place, and you go back to Google, that tells Google that where it went was the wrong result for that keyword or search that it was doing. And it measures these bounces, right? So the bounce rate is basically you haven't done a good job of qualifying what somebody's looking for when they get there, because they left and went back to Google and perhaps to your competitor's site. Goals. All websites should be set up with goals, whatever these goals may be. For you individually, perhaps the goal is capturing information, perhaps the goal is getting them to a certain spot on your website, perhaps the goal is picking up the phone and calling. Those are your goals. Google doesn't know what your goals are. It can possibly suggest what they might be, but only you know what your goals are. And you have to tell Google Analytics specifically what that goal is so that it can measure it. All right, and what's a tag? Well, a tag is a way of getting all of the components on your website, the events that you want to happen, a button click. It actually could be tagging something outside the site that's driving traffic in that you can start to collect information on, okay? So just level setting a few common terms when we talk about this stuff, but you have to have those in place. Let's talk a little bit, this is where it gets a little bit sort of into the weeds of Google Analytics, but if you've ever seen a Google Analytics report, there are two things that make it up. First is the metric, okay? How many people visited my site? How many pages were viewed? How many goals did I convert to on my website? So those are just metrics, right? Those are numbers or ratios, a percentage that you can tell. What was the percentage of my, you can tell, I had this many visitors from, let's say, Canada, right? But then you say Canada, hang on a second, that's actually a country. So now we're getting into the world of dimensions, right? All my visitors, one of the dimensions is where did they come from, right? Maybe what browser type are they using? Are they using Safari or are they using Google Chrome? That way it can start inferring, are these like high-tech, folks who, have jumped onto the Apple bandwagon, or are they more of a hacker culture because they're using Chrome on a PC, right? And start to understand sort of your users and what platforms are on. Again, we talked about traffic source. Where is that traffic coming from? Your traffic is one big number. When you start to break it out and understand the different sources, that will tell you a lot more than you can glean just from one number. So the dimensions, the attributes of those numbers are extremely important, okay? Anybody knew this before I started this explanation about the dimensions and metrics? Okay, so this took me on my own because there was no guy I listened to like me speaking, but 15 years ago when I started using this tool, I was like, what the hell is this? I literally say to my students, you can get into Google Analytics on a Monday morning, look up, it's Thursday afternoon, right? It's kind of like, anybody have a VR headset and started playing around, buy a VR, virtual reality thing? It's like, I had a friend who said, I was calling him, he's late for a golf tournament, And I called him, and he said, dude, thanks for calling me. I just woke up. I got VR. I finally installed it last night. I installed it. It was all ready to go at about 11:30. He said, so I decided to try it out. I went to bed about 15 minutes ago. So you can get caught into this, right? It is pretty deep. So when you get into these reports, right, this is a very top line. And by the way, by the time that I've documented and done screen grabs from Google, they've already probably changed parts of the interface and how it looks, but this is the 80-20 rule. The 80% of what makes it work, and its horsepower is still there. So if it doesn't look exactly like some of the screen grabs I have, then grain of salt with Google Analytics. What it tells us is kind of 4 key areas. I want to know about the audience that's on my site, okay? And we'll get into a little bit deeper dive in that. Or I want to know about the acquisition efforts. How are people getting to my site, right? What can I start to target in terms of a journey for them? What about the behavior? When they're on the site, what are they doing? What are they engaging with? And what can I tell from that? And then finally, the conversion. Are they doing what we hoped they would do, right? Because your website is a value exchange. People don't just come to your website to give you business. That would be great if they did, but they come to your website to do a value judgment. What's here for me? Should I be going with this company or that company, right? Because your competition is just one click away. And this is what the menus are that are on sort of analytics. The reports themselves come up with different ways where you can explore the data. You can split it up in a data table or a graph or something just kind of keyed off there, maybe. Because now I can't go forward. If this is a touch screen, I'll just... Thank you. So those are the key areas within the reporting, and let's dive into them a little bit deeper to give you guys a sense of what's actually there that you can use. So within audience reports, we want to know where are these people located, right? Are you getting a lot of traffic from, if a bot has originated in China, or it has originated in somewhere across the globe, you're going to be able to tell where that traffic is coming from. I used to write a blog a long time ago, and I would be like, why did my traffic level go so high today? And then I would check, and I would go, why are people in Lithuania reading my marketing blog? That doesn't make sense. It may have been, sort of bot traffic that's out there on the net. There's 2 types of bot traffic. There's good bot traffic, what Google sends out to see what's on your website so that you can rank higher in search engine rankings, and then there's bad bot traffic, right? The malicious stuff, the stuff that you've read about in the newspapers. So where's my audience located, right? I can take this right down to an actual IP address that's listed with Bell Canada or with to a very specific geographic footprint. So if I've dropped, let's say, direct mail, or if I've run a TV commercial in a certain segment, I can see if there's impact coming from people within there. What languages are they using? Are we getting a lot of traffic from Quebec? Is it Francophone? Is it Anglophone? We can tell that. We can tell that from the browser instance and the language that was used to view your site. And we can tell a lot of that from what Google considers to be kind of cohort analysis. So they put all of you guys together, and they look at what the common attributes are, and you can tell a lot from that. Are people using my website on a mobile device? How many people here would say they have a wonderfully rich and deep mobile experience with their website? Okay, because if people are still pinching and zooming on your site, you're doing it wrong on mobile. Okay, it's got to be responsive. In fact, if it's not responsive, if it's not a good website from that, you're being penalized by Google as we speak. Google has a different ranking for mobile versus desktop traffic now. So if your sites are not mobily optimized, please come speak to me later, because we can put you on the right path. But that's what we're looking at. And you can tell that, right? If you have a really crappy experience on your website and you look to see where your mobile traffic is and it's increasing, you better do something about it and do it quick. What are the ages, interests, market segments that your traffic represents? It can tell you a lot, right? Maybe you're getting a younger demographic or maybe an older demographic. That will tell you about maybe what to prioritize on your website. Okay, so that's the audience who's on your site. Now let's look at acquisition. How are people finding your site? Right, you send out an email blast. Are they coming back to your site from that email? What are marketing channels that you're using? Pay-per-click advertising, display advertising, perhaps remarketing. Maybe it's just content that you're putting on other people's sites, or it's content that people have signed up for from your site, right, that they're getting through some sort of feed. So we want to know how that traffic is getting to our site and what we can do with it. And then finally, what's the effectiveness of it? When you understand that you've acquired a certain amount of traffic or visitors from a certain channel, what are they doing? What have they done when they got to your site? Is paid search doing better than organic search when it comes to generating a lead? Because you can follow that path through. What about behavior? What content are people looking for on your site, right? If they're going to specific pages, are those pages search engine optimized? Because when people get to your site, when they're searching through, right, and they can't find what they're looking for, maybe you have done a bad job of optimizing your natural search, the ability for Google to pick up the information that's there. So you can look at those to help improve your marketing. Where do they come into the site? Where do they leave the site through? Do you see a pattern emerging? What's going on those specific pages? And are they tagged right? Right? Google will do a great job of telling you what happened coming into the site and going out of the site, but you actually have to have Google Tag Manager attached to specific things on the page to gauge what people interacted with. Okay, so if you're not up to speed with Google Analytics, please know that Google Tag Manager actually helps bring it all to life. Okay, and don't forget this ever, that Analytics will tell you what happened, but not why. The why is up to you guys to figure that out. Conversion reports. So I want stuff to happen on my website. I want these interactions to take place. Are they taking place? And by the way, when they do take place, what's the monetary value of it taking place? If I know that every application that I receive, whatever the math works out to be, is probably worth about $10 each, because when I do my conversion reporting, I know that one of these 10 is going to end up being written into a policy. Someone's going to become a prospect. So then I can take whatever that is worth and sort of divide it by my prospects. So I know every lead coming in has a certain value to it. And when I improve my ability to bring in the right customers to my website based on what I'm seeing through my analytics, I'm going to be able to make those leads worth actually more, because I'd be getting rid of garbage and I'd be bringing in the right Glengarry Glen Ross. Any fans? You guys seen that? If you haven't, go check it out. Great flick. You're going to get the Glengarry leads through that. Okay, and then I'm going to want to see what's my attribution for my campaigns. Am I getting leads that are coming into the website from pay-per-click advertising, let's say, and that they are then ending up in actually a lead, or perhaps even closed business? Okay, so that's our conversion reports. And it's this, right? Traffic, website, ends up in leads. You have to tell Google, though, what those goals are. It doesn't just know. It doesn't just do that. I guess one day down the line, we talked about blockchain in the last, did you guys talk about artificial intelligence at all? Because it's not a conference today, unless you've mentioned blockchain and artificial intelligence. But artificial intelligence, there was actually something I was checking out which said, we will build your website for you. And I wanted to check it out. So I put in a bunch of information. It built a quasi, it built a website that I was about 20% happy with. As a human, I had to fill in the other 80%, so I decided to just do the whole 100% by myself. But Google, through AI, might one day be able to tell you what it thinks your goals are from your website, but actually only you know what those goals are. Perhaps your goal of an engaged visitor is to have them visit at least 3 pages on your website, right, and maybe submit some data, or spend at least 5 minutes on a certain page. Or perhaps, one of your goals is you're going to post all the frequently asked questions on your website and offset calls coming into your call center or to your office. That's another goal. Only you know what actually makes the most sense. And you can probably attach to any of these goals, or no, not probably. It is quite probable that these goals will have some sort of monetary value that you can then plug into Google and have it do the calculation for how much money you're saving or making through. Not all conversions are created equal, though. Okay, there are macro conversions and micro conversions. A macro conversion is the big one, right? It's getting a lead, it's closing a sale. In your world, you may have others. But the micro conversions are spent time on my website, signed up for an email newsletter, downloaded something, watched a video. These are the actual indicators that they're on their way or in the process of perhaps achieving that macro goal that you have for your business through your website. Okay, and finally, we kind of look at this. I want to include this in here in terms of attribution. Was it an online ad? Was it social media? Was it a direct visit to the website? Or could it have been an email campaign or organic search? It doesn't matter how they got to the site. What Google Analytics allows you to do, and use this with caution because there aren't exactly 100% exact accurate answers for what to do, but what this will show you is a comparison of, well, you know, in terms of people who come to the website and when they complete a goal, what was the first click that got them into this journey? Well, we can see it was an online ad that originally got them to the website. They may have converted down here in terms of the last click, which was through an email we sent them, but we know that that advertising is working in certain cases to start and stimulate that chain of events to happen. We want to look at it another way. We want to look at it just from email. We want to assign all of the attribution to the email campaign that went out the door, right? We can see it that way as well. And then we can assign the weighting of how much we spent on any of our marketing activities and sort of just say, well, you know, on average, they're coming through these 3-4 channels. We need to split up those dollars evenly. So that's what attribution will tell you, where people are coming from, how many clicks it might be taking to get through to where you want them to complete a goal on your site, but then split it up and look at it this way. Okay, good. Drinking from the fire hose, you guys okay? Yeah, good. I know it's just after lunch, your blood's warming. It's all fun to have the afternoon spot, right? Let's talk about some practical techniques that you can use. And these are practical techniques. I did one of the scariest things was going down to New York to talk to a bunch of analysts at a large mutual fund company and do this presentation where I was walking them through basic things that they could do with their data. And if you have people who don't know and people who do know, what scares me is the people who do know, because they wouldn't want to get involved in this because they know all this stuff. But you know what happens is they get a little bit too deep into their data brain, their data science, and they forget what they're actually doing and who they're doing it for. So in this basic data mining, right, turning you guys into the little refineries, one of the most powerful and simple ways you can start to go about this stuff is to ask the questions around segmentation. And segmentation can be sounding like a big scary word, but it's really not. It's just putting clusters of people together and then trying to split them apart based on an observed behavior, an attribute, and look at them in clusters, right? That's what we do. That's what the big, you know, risk folks will do with this same data. They kind of start with the same premise in mind. You start to deal with smaller, more manageable audience segments. You understand what your KPIs are, and then you can begin to analysis to do your comparison and contrasting. You may find that you are having absolutely no problem when somebody gets to a landing page that you've designed for your website, but when they get into your website proper, they don't know what they're doing, right? So they can glean these things. You may want to look at, you know, conversions that went to our landing page first versus went to our home page. There's so many different ways you can split up this data. You can look at it by your audience, as we just described, right? I want to see how many people came from a certain region in Canada and made it through to at least the first stage of what I would consider to be engagement. I want to see where I paid for that traffic versus where that traffic is coming to me for free. Maybe I want to see in terms of my customer list that I know I send out emails to, or perhaps it's just prospects, you know, coming from somewhere on the website. Maybe my email is split into, you know, emails with customer relationship versus email with no customer relationship, right? Where you never close that lead. What does that tell you? You look at it by channel, right? Paid versus owned versus, paid media versus maybe social media versus specific campaigns that you've run. You can get a lot of great data out of it. Maybe it's a certain age group, as it's listed here, that are responding well to a marketing campaign because they identify with it, while another age group altogether just is not paying attention because it's not for them. You know, one of the things that marketers always talk about is analytics and data and personalization and all this stuff, but I've personally seen it, folks. There's not a whole lot of testing going on. Are you testing 2 different landing pages, 2 different creatives in your advertising? Are you testing 2 different sort of communications value propositions, right? There's a ton of stuff that you can set up for success once you know how to measure this stuff on the back end. And we talked about geographic regions, right? Maybe there's something to be said about how certain regions are having more specific, you know, maybe it's weather related, right? Maybe a certain region, you want to put advertising into a certain region that speaks to something you know happened or might happen. and see what that does for boosting your results and your conversions. Right? There's so much here. It's hard to even sort of, you need a room full of people to sort of brainstorm this stuff and then sort of prioritize what you think is going to have the most value for your business. And that's what I think the key is around analytics, is what's the value to your business? Because we could start today and we could go away for months on end and figure out all these data points, but unless they have value for your business, it can be a little bit of navel gazing and a waste of time. So figure that out for yourselves. I wanted to get into a little bit of a sort of activity or exercise with you guys. You all awake still? We all good? Because this is, this may not be a campaign type of report that you might see. These numbers may be too big, too small, not sure. But, what this basically says is it's kind of a common report. How many people have seen a report sort of similar to this? Right? Here's our web traffic, and here's what we've done in terms of our campaigns, and perhaps we split it out. Anybody ever seen a report that looks remotely like this? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so a few hands. How many people wish they saw a report like this on their marketing activities? Okay, so apparently I won't be writing your reports for you. That's fine. This is a basic report, right? These are just metrics on this report. And what this report tells me up in the top corner is just the information that's come into the website. These are the stats. And I've wanted to, one of the columns there is, let's break this out by the previous campaign period. So we have site traffic, visitors to the site that were new, who went to our landing page that we had set up, what's the average amount of page views, bounce rate, and then what would we consider our engaged visitors. So if I were to ask you, what questions would you start to ask about that part of your report, right? Because the report, we talked about you guys being the refineries. This is the analysis. The analytics actually starts to happen when you see the numbers, right? What do I mean by analysis? Well, I'm going to, in my brain, go back to grade, 5 or 6, and start to think about, well, why did that happen? I'm starting to do a hypothesis, right? Is that right? Could that have happened because of this? Well, what's the way that I can prove it? Well, I can come up with my hypothesis. I can go back and I can try and test it and validate it, right? Simple stuff we learned way back in, science class in grade 5 or 6. Yet most business people, when they're looking at reports like this, they have questions, but they don't know how to necessarily formulate the next step to test and learn to maybe do it better next time or validate that that's actually the right number that should be there and it can't be taken any further. So what questions would you guys ask about that top quadrant that says web? Anyone? Yes, sir.
Only a third of my customers got to the landing page. If I've got 36,000 people as a site visit, how come only a third of them are actually at the landing page?
Right. So did somebody mess up and say, just go to the homepage? Did maybe one of my my paid campaigns or emails just dump people on? So asking that question is 100% viable because you're going to get to the next stage, right? This is a campaign where the landing page might have only been mentioned in certain vehicles. So what we're going to do is look at that landing page and say, well, what were the sources of traffic? Did people, nobody knew about our campaign name, so they wouldn't have typed it in organically, so they must have seen it in advertising somewhere. Yet we had all of that traffic to the site during that time. Maybe that was just campaign-based traffic, right? Anyone else? Any other questions? Yes, Wendy.
We have a 10% increase in new visitors. So how do we get that? How do we get that increase?
Right.
We have less site traffic with more new visitors. And then they're going to more pages. What is prompting them to look at 2.2 average pages instead of 125?
Right. We have less, but they look like they are actually engaging more. So what's the cause of that? Right? So we can dive into the numbers a little bit, and we can tell, again, the whole point here is continuous improvement. Right? Why did it happen? We don't know why, but we know what happened. Now we have to start asking why, forming those hypotheses. Sometimes it'll become clear, right away, just by looking at the numbers, asking a question, saying, oh yeah, I remember, right? One of the nice things about Google Analytics is along the analytics sort of view platform, you can annotate a certain date or time and say, direct mail dropped here, TV commercial launched here, website went down here, right? Hopefully that's not the case, but we all know that that's happened in the past. So let's look at some questions that we can naturally ask. Right? How does our traffic compare with our previous campaign? Did we do anything different this time or last time? again, what's the percentage of not just landing page traffic, but what's the percentage of page traffic that are from new visitors that don't know our brand, that may be seeing it for the first time, versus who knows about our brand, been to our website, or are they coming back to the landing page as a new visitor, right? First time was viewing that, and second time was maybe checking it out again. And then what happened after that second visit versus that first visit? Did you test anything, right? And on that landing page itself, were people watching the video? Were they downloading the brochure or the white paper or the whatever you had for them, right? Maybe it was a coupon to show up for something if you're, have a retail sort of face to your business. So moving along, now we're going to isolate our paid activities. What did we do in terms of the money that we spent on display advertising, pay-per-click advertising, or paid social media, right? Are you guys using any of those tactics, in your marketing or driving on social media advertising? If you're not using social media advertising, there's never been I know we may have all of our views of Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg and all, but what they have built is a fantastic platform to target whoever you want, wherever you want. Okay, so think about how you're reaching your customers. So what does it look like? Where are the ads that are getting me the most click quality? What are the top AdWords campaigns that I'm running? And what are some of the top words in those campaigns that are generating traffic to my website? Am I learning anything more from search engine marketing, where I have a lot of information that I can feed into my search engine optimization? Okay. Traffic sources. Where are my traffic coming from? What are my best sources of engagement? It may find that I'm getting the most through email, but they never come back to the website to kind of do anything. Right? So following that down. What should I be spending time on and effort on so that they engage and convert with my brand? And when you get to email, email you can set up for segmentation to push out, right? How many people are running email-based sort of contact programs in their companies? Few? Okay, so again, current customers, previous customers, maybe it's geographic breakdown, maybe it's age-related. So many different things you can do to test. And the lovely thing about email is you can test a small portion, see if it worked, test another small portion, see if it worked, and then roll it out. All right? So just a different way to look and interrogate a report, because that puts you into the driver's seat without actually even getting behind the scenes of Google Analytics, just knowing what's there, knowing what metrics are available, knowing what dimensions are available to split up those metrics, understanding basic segmentation criteria that you can think through, along with a scientific method applied to testing and learning, will help you do a better job with your overall marketing. Only got a couple moments left, so I want to say the analytical mindset that you'll need to develop is being curious and creative, right? Why? What happened? Maybe that happened because of this. But also thinking strategically. What do you need these numbers to help you do over time? What's the objective you're looking for? Having some minor statistics and data competency always helps. Being open-minded, right? Anything can happen. But being skeptical when you think it might not actually be the case so that you can validate. Also, what's important in this world is we're seeing two layers kind of develop. Data scientists and analysts who are really kind of introverted for the most part, love looking at their screens and working on problems. But the problems need to be business problems that they're solving for. And what that means as people who are non-analytics people in this room today, I'm gathering, you need to be the translators to those analytics people to understand what it is that you need from your reporting, what business outcome you're trying to achieve, and help them along the way. Because they're not going to know what your business strategy is. They're just the numbers people. They're the quants, right? But more and more, those quants are wanting to know what you're trying to achieve so they can best help you. All right? At the end of the day, this is what it's all about. It's about saying and looking at a metric, looking at a number. You don't have to make that face. I don't think anybody wants to make that face. But you actually have to say, so what? Your agency comes up and says, we're doing awesome on ad impressions. So what? Right? Practice the art of so what to get to what's actually behind the numbers that are important for your business. Because a metric is just a metric. It's a dumb number until you say, so what? What does that mean to my business? And what can I do from here? All right? So keep calm, analytic on. This is not geeky. Hopefully what I've been able to give to you guys is a little bit of understanding, demystify this world for you. It is a bit complex, I'm not going to lie to you, but it's not overly complicated that you can't figure it out and do what's right for your business, at least in sort of small increments to begin. Okay? Thank you guys very much for your time. I'm happy to take any questions. This is my firm. I do this and help this from companies from big to small within the whole digital ecosystem, but digital marketing only works when you can actually measure what's working. So that's where I kind of step in. So thank you guys so much. Any questions?
Thank you, Michael. That was terrific. A lot of information in
I come prepared.
amount of time. Do we have any questions for Michael? I have one. How do you figure out what are the metrics that you should be watching for your business?
All based on what your desired outcomes are. So again, if it's generating leads, like you're a new business, you just need, sorry, let me back that up. You're a new business and you want awareness. Well, so you're going to be measuring how many people did I reach? Are they in my target audience? And are they spending, let's say, time figuring out on my website who we are and what we do, and trying to get in touch with us through the website. If the goal is lead generation, then I'm going to look at a bit of a different metric. Not just how many people I reached, how many people came back to the site and did what I thought they would do, which is give me some information. And that can be starting out with either an email address, or it could be a full, contact me right now form.
And how can you use this type of data to help improve the performance of your website?
So you're spending, let's say, $100 a day on pay-per-click advertising, and it's bringing people to your website. What are they doing when they get there? Should you be using certain keywords? Maybe you wanted to pick up on a general term for insurance, but you're more niche in what you provide. So people are coming to your site thinking you cover all the bases when you really only cover a couple of them. Those people who think you cover all the bases, they're going to bounce away from your site because you don't have what they need. So be more targeted in how you're approaching your advertising spend. Learn from it and then be able to make those enhancements on your site.
We've dipped our toe in the water here, but most of us... So we've dipped our toe in the water here, but most of us don't have the time to be able to become a fully trained website analyst. How do we tap into this if we can't do it ourselves?
Google Analytics is free. You might need some help setting it up, maybe technically, but go check it out. There's a lot of great online videos. This is a service I perform for companies big and small as well to help step in, show them sort of what the road ahead is and get them set up for success. But ultimately, it does take that ability to step in, kind of see what's going on, lift open the hood, and know what parts you can actually affect and generate reports.
So do we have to add somebody to the team to focus in this area, or can we take some time from other people?
I think any smart folks in the room that have the ability and have a little bit to work something off the corner of their desk for a while to get something up and going, that's what Google allows us to do.
And certainly if someone like yourself were to come in and help figure out the goals and what to measure and how to set up the reporting, then people could become very familiar with how to interpret the data and make it work for them.
Absolutely. I call my engagements around this, I'm there for a good time, not a long time, because it's the stuff that you guys need to do in your business to kind of take it forward, but to help set up that measurement plan, know what you're measuring against, and then start to get into that continuous improvement cycle and understand what's bringing traffic to your site, what they're doing, and how you can get more value out of it.
Any other questions for Michael? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.